The big Mamie update is a large act to follow, but the February 2021 update of World of Warships Legends has a lot of cool new content and two very important things that could support the long-term health of the game. Let's dive in and take a look. Hey folks, VannKraken here. Let's start out by talking about one of the two really important elements of this patch, and it is Airstrike, a 2-week aircraft carrier test event, the final arrival of aircraft carriers into World of Warships Legends. It will start on February 1st and run for 2 weeks to gather data for a full implementation of carrier vehicles, or CVs, into World of Warships Legends down the road in the relatively near future. We won't have access to full tech trees at this point, obviously, but we will have access to 2 ships from the IJN, or Imperial Japanese Navy, which are the Hosho and Ryoho at tiers 3 and 5, and the US Navy, which will be the Langley and Ranger at tiers 3 and 5 as well. Ultimately, there will most likely be additions to these lines at tier 7, along with other nations being added to the fray. There'll be 3 different missions available to play in these ships or against these ships, and the surface ships battling the carriers will go up to tier 6. There will be specific event commanders that you'll have on loan along with the ships during the duration of the airstrike event, one for the Japanese Navy and one for the USN. Those will be pulled from your inventory after the event is over. And then from a gameplay perspective, let's talk about important notes to keep in mind. First of all, you'll have single entity control, basically meaning you'll only be able to control your ship or your plane squadron that's in the air one at a time, not both simultaneously. You'll only have access initially to torpedo and dive bombers. This is kind of a big deal in my opinion, because the missing plane formation in this configuration is rocket planes, and those rocket planes are giving destroyers a very hard time right now, at least specific destroyers on World of Warships PC. So I think to keep things simpler and a little more balanced, they've left the rocket planes out, and I wouldn't mind if that were a permanent decision personally for Legends. The anti-aircraft suites of the surface ships have currently been left unchanged. I imagine those will have some balancing as time goes on. And there are no anti-aircraft consumables added to the surface ships. So PC has access to a consumable called Defensive AA. You will potentially be able to add that in the future, but that will usually be at the cost of removing a competing consumable like Sonar 1. Finally, catapult fighters have been changed. There will be a buff to their anti-aircraft capability, which makes sense since they're trying to protect you from enemy squadrons attacking your ship, but there will be some nerfs to the duration of their flight. The only benefit to that on the flip side is that the cooldown in between flights will also be shortened. So we talked a little bit about how the nuts and bolts of carrier gameplay will work in World of Warships Legends. Let's step back for a second, again, talk about why this is such an important development within the game itself with regard to the overall long-term health of the title. So from a player perspective, as a 4-year World of Warships PC player, I can tell you from experience that carriers will be divisive. But the counter to that is that it will offer an opportunity to increase the diversity of play styles within World of Warships. CV play is completely different from surface ship play. So for people who quickly get tired of doing the same thing over and over, this could retain more players in our player base for a longer period of time, which is a good thing. Some people will argue that carriers will alter the team experience, that if they have a bad carrier commander on their team, it's going to wreck their chances to win. And you know, that's going to happen regardless of whether CVs are in the game or not. So I think we just need to get over the fact that carriers, yes, there will be imbalances between the 2 commanders on each team, but that happens with regard to overall team composition when it's just based on surface ships. It's still the same issue of a team-based game without skill-based matchmaking. From a rule of thirds perspective, again, based on my experience in World of Warships PC, about a third of players will love CVs, About a third of players will be relatively indifferent and deal with them, and about a third will hate them and talk about how much they hate them all the time. So on balance, I think that this community will come to accept CVs as long as the implementation goes smoothly, so we can minimize the amount of hate that they get. And that's going to come down to our next population of folks, which is the devs. So I am optimistic, because this is not the first chance that devs have had to implement carriers into World of Warships. They've done multiple rounds of balancing on PC. They've implemented it in 2 different game modes, both from an RTS, or real-time strategy perspective, and more of an arcadey flight control perspective, as is the current game mode that we're getting in Legends. And I think that the console version seems simplified for now, which actually is a good thing. It should make the implementation go smoother, and hopefully, again, that will minimize any potential backlash and make more people happy on balance about carriers being in the game than sad. Lastly, from a company perspective, why would WG upset the apple cart here? Why would they change the gameplay that a lot of people love? Well, WG is typically a very data-driven company and has to follow the bottom line. They have to make money. They have 5,000 global employees. So I think they've invested a lot of time into this decision, because it's going to cost them considerable amount of both dev time and money to make this happen. They have to see a substantial player-based growth opportunity, or I don't believe they would be pursuing adding carriers into the console version of the game. So I am optimistic they've done their homework, and I will link a story from the Wargaming CEO in the description of this video. But what's really cool from his perspective was that he sees the WG titles as a lifetime hobby, not just an individual one and done video game title like we see in other genres of video games. So he knows that this gameplay is somewhat repetitive if you just play the same surface ship over and over. There are some people like me who are totally fine with that. But what adding carriers to the game will do, again, is increase that diversity of experience and hopefully keep more players playing for a longer period of time and keep the population healthy in a game that I love and hopefully you care about too. Well, folks, next up, we are out of the air and back on the waves with the Dragonslayer campaign for the premium Tier 7 cruiser Siegfried. It's a pretty standard 100 level of progression, 5 weekly block campaign. And if you've seen my videos in the past, you know I'm a proponent of doing these events. After investing 2,500 doubloons in the Admiralty backing cost, we can earn 1,000 doubloons back and bring the total cost in dollars or euros down substantially in participating in this campaign to $5 US, roughly about 6 euros. Great value for basically a very high tier premium ship that would probably cost you $65 to $70 in the store for the ship alone. Another interesting development, folks, is that you can earn up to 1,250 steel in this campaign. We'll talk about why that is so important in a little bit, but hold that in the back of your mind. Along the bottom of the campaign progression chart, let's talk about what you get out of doing this event besides just the ship itself. We're going to star some things as we go along. Boosters and camos. People ask me during my streams, how do you have so many boosters and camos? Well, I participate in these campaigns. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you get all this incredible stuff along with the reward ship itself if you put in the time to complete the missions. So you get a good chunk of boosters and camos. A new element is 2 permanent camouflages with Admiralty backing, 1 without. I've gone back and checked my notes, did not see permanent camouflages in any of the past events, so that's something new. Be interested to see what the details are on that specifically. Global XP, always great to get more of it to use to buy those reward ships in the shop or on the tech tree. I have Alabama in my port currently. I highly recommend Atlanta before she goes away from free XP if you can grab her, as well as a number of other cool ships that you can only purchase with global XP and not with doubloons or credits. Insignia promotion orders and commendations, always welcome. Commander XP is kind of a dime a dozen, but those special commander items that help you level up your dudes is super important, and you can get a lot more of those items by paying for the Admiralty backing. Doubloons we talked about, you get an extra 750 backs, which brings the cost of the campaign down in real dollars or euros, and you get a bunch more crates. So we'll talk about the Royal Navy event shortly. You're going to have a chance to earn early release ships in the new heavy cruiser line for the Royal Navy, much more crate accumulation and more chances to bring those ships into your port if you buy Admiralty backing. And lastly, we talked about getting the Siegfried herself, paying for the extra Admiralty backing track. The tip is from the patch notes to invest in Admiralty backing on day one, which unlocks some extra missions to get more steel. If you complete the whole thing by Admiralty backing purchase, at the end you get 250 steel, but again, you can earn up to 1250 steel if you buy Admiralty backing early on, and we'll talk about what steel means shortly. Super exciting. The overall bonus value is an extra 53,165 doubloons that you get in all this extra stuff by buying Admiralty backing in addition to getting the ship. So again, a great value overall. This romantic interlude is brought to you by World of Warships Matchmaking, where we take some of the best features of Gneisenau and Bismarck and merge them together to create a new and exciting battlecruiser, Baby Siegfried. Who said paper ships can't be legends? Get your Baby Siegfried in the Dragonslayer campaign today. That word from our sponsor sets us up for a discussion of the Tier 7 Siegfried and whether she's a good fit in your port. She is a battlecruiser that has unique brawling potential, totally opposite of the Azima, which was a standoff HE spamming playstyle, the ship that was available a few campaigns ago and hasn't resonated with nearly as many players as I think the Siegfried will. Again, she is a super heavy Type O cruiser, Kriegsmarine, and her armament is 6 accurate 15-inch main battery barrels with solid AP rounds that feature good penetration. She also has secondaries that you can configure her as a secondary warrior type of ship. Really the first cruiser that's been able to do that in World of Warships, period. And for those close quarters engagements, she has 2 midship quad torpedo mounts, so she can dish out a lot of damage in tight spaces very quickly. Armor protection, she's not a full battleship, but she does have a strong scheme for close quarters fighting. She has Turtleback armor scheme, which is featured by the Kriegsmarine battleships and Kriegsmarine cruisers, so good to reduce damage from armor penetrating rounds at close distances, and her ABX turret arrangement allows her to angle in tight spaces as well and help keep damage impact at a lower level. From a survivability perspective, that armor is aided by a quite solid hit point pool and a good torpedo belt for a cruiser. On the con side, you have to give up something for that offensive firepower. She is not super agile. She is speedy, but she has a slow rudder shift, and because of her size, she's a large and easy target to hit for your enemies. And from an anti-aircraft perspective, she is below average for similar tier cruisers. So whereas a high tier American cruiser is going to shred planes, you are going to probably take a couple bombs or a couple torpedoes from a determined CV captain in the Siegfried. So as we talked about on the last playful slide, she has the same guns as the big Bismarck. Those 15-inch caliber guns are the largest main battery guns in the game on a cruiser, but they are tweaked for improved accuracy, and the rate of fire is also going to be favorable from a cruiser perspective. So she has 2 less barrels, but is able to dish out similar damage output to ships that are battleship class. And I think, again, this is a ship that's going to resonate with a lot of players because this super cruiser playstyle in a durable format is an actually quite forgiving configuration for newer players as well as seasoned players who are going to love to get inside and brawl with her. While Airstrike and Dragonslayer provide the core content in the February 2021 update, there's some additional bonus things that provide a little bit of extra flavor. First off is Arena Mode. It's a new game mode. It's really a mashup of Ranked meets Rust and Rumble. There'll be a ladder scoring system similar to Ranked, and the gameplay is similar to Rust and Rumble in that there's 4 teams of 3 ships competing against one another to have ultimate domination and survival in a center deathmatch circle. The interesting aspect of this mode is that friendly fire is enabled. It will be reduced to 1/3 of the regular damage output, but for the first time ever, console players will have to actually be responsible for the torpedoes that they fire into water occupied by friendly ships. So that'll be interesting to see how people receive that. This event will run from February 15th to March 9th, and there's a mix of event rewards that come along with this, including commander items, crates, some global XP, paint, doubloons, and the opportunity to win 2,500 additional steel, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that steel is only for the top 1% of players, which is kind of a really WG moment to me. I think there should be steel for more players than just 1%. So that might make that a little bit of a salty mode. British Heavy Cruiser line. This almost is like treated like a throw-in, guys. It's a new to console Royal Navy Heavy Cruiser branch. Unique aspects of these ships are that they offer both armor piercing and high explosive rounds. They have the single launch torps, which are the hallmark of the light cruiser line in the Royal Navy and the destroyers. They are not so nimble, so you have to kind of plan out your moves in these ships and be aware of who you're presenting your broadside to and when, because you will take some serious damage if you're not careful with your positioning. Early access ships are going to be available through the British cruiser crates that you can unlock through the campaign, and probably daily missions as well, I would imagine. Tier 4 Hawkins, Tier 5 Devonshire, and Tier 6 Surrey will be available in this update, with the Tier 7 ship following soon, probably in the next patch release. There'll be a new expendable Union Jack camo, which I've used on the PC side and is cool. It can be converted to a permanent camouflage through the paint system for a ship of any nation on the tech tree. And then lastly, Lunar New Year. I actually have one of these ships in my port from my original PC account. That's what you can see here. They are Miyoko clones called the Southern Dragon and Eastern Dragon. They're going to play exactly like a Miyoko, but they have their own Chinese Lunar New Year flavor, which is pretty cool. They are relatively standout camos. If you want a bright and garish camo that is not an anime camo, this is the ship for you. And along with that, we'll get the Dragon Lunar New Year port as well, with fireworks and the big floating dragon in the water. Kind of a cool and unique port, but I actually prefer Fjord from last campaign better. So anyway, standard update length. This will last through Monday, March 8th. So again, it's a total of 5 weeks, but the next patch will be landing on a Tuesday morning, not on a Monday morning as usual. All right, guys, we've reached the second item in this update that I'm really hyped up about, and it is the introduction of steel. This to me was an awesome surprise, and what I hope is another signal that Wargaming is committing to World of Warships Legends in the long term. Now, steel, if you're not aware, is a new permanent earnable currency. It exists on World of Warships PC and has for quite a while now. And the first ship that you're going to be able to purchase with steel is the Tier 7 U.S. Navy battleship Missouri. This is a legendary ship beyond legendary tier on World of Warships PC. She has incredible earnings on both silver and XP. I own her on my original account and grabbed her when she was available, and she is fun to play. And again, everyone wants a Missouri on PC. and I'm sure lots of players are going to want Missouri on Legends as well. The thing is, with her status comes a high price tag. You're not going to be able to earn all the steel to purchase her in this update. In fact, it will probably take you 3, 4, or more updates, depending on your level of play, to earn Missouri. But a great addition to the game, as is steel. I'm super excited about this. It opens up great possibilities for additional endgame content in my mind, and this is content that console tanks missed out on. I played a lot of World of Tanks console over the first 2 or 3 years, and it just seemed really slow to introduce anything like secondary currencies or clan content that can really take this game to the next level. So an idea of that is the World of Warships PC Armory. And right now there's 6 ships available on PC for steel. So is this a signal of what other ships can come to Legends? These are high-powered ships that are very highly sought after, including the FDR, the Shikishima, Borgonia, Stalingrad, Plymouth, and Summers. And I hope this isn't just a signal that we may have an armory someday, or at least a stable of steel currency ships to buy. But I hope this is a signal that we'll get other endgame content, like a full-blown clan structure, where we have more than just a clan tag like World of Tanks console had. We have the ability to form fully functional clans that can compete in clan battles. How awesome would that be? So again, I think it will basically extend the life of the game tremendously to introduce this, and I'm very excited about the possibilities that this potentially points to. One last throw-in is the Tier 6 München, high rate of fire HE spamming cruiser from the Kriegsmarine will be coming to the premium shop for doubloons, in addition to the Tier 6 US destroyer Sims. So I know at least one friend who is super stoked beyond belief about the Sims, which is a fun and versatile US Navy destroyer that I think a lot of players will enjoy. Given that there seems to be an endless number of YouTube videos you could watch these days, I thank you so much for taking your time to watch this update on the February 2021 patch for World of Warships Legends. If you like content like this, you can check out my YouTube library, where subs and likes are super helpful for my channel to grow, or watch me live stream on Wednesday, Thursday, or Saturday on Twitch or YouTube. Hey, I wish you the best of luck in your pursuit of Siegfried. I hope you have a great first experience playing CVs, and make a point to try to get some of that steel under your belt and into your bank account on this first update on your way to earning the US battleship Missouri. Hey, great gameplay to you. This is VannKraken, and I am out.